Hi, welcome back to the Break the Cycle podcast. We are here with an amazing guest, Cheryl. We are talking all about codependency. We talk about codependency and its connection to manipulation as well as narcissism. We go through Cheryl's framework. She's been doing this for 3 decades plus, really being able to be an expert in this space and how codependency doesn't just show up in romantic relationships, but also shows up in the workplace, in friend dynamics. So we do a full deep dive. I say wow way too many times because there's so much enlightenment that comes through on this podcast. So thank you so much, Cheryl, for being here. We're going to hop into a quick video where we will dive in and watch a Friends episode, a little clip, seeing if it's a healthy way to react or maybe not so healthy way to react. But Cheryl, welcome in.
Thank you. I'm so psyched to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about yourself.
I spend every single day in the heart of my mission and purpose, which is to normalize codependency. Mm-hmm. I think it's wildly common. It's not just because the word is often synonymous with like really obvious situations, right? Like you're dating a massive addict, right? Or you are, dependent on somebody for your finances. And those are codependent situations. But I work with people who you're high performing, you're paying your bills, things look decent on the outside, but you don't have a voice at home, or you don't have a voice at your boss, or you're walking around in the world with this sort of subtle level of not feeling safe and having to prove your worth. So I'm out to normalize it. I want codependency to become just an everyday word. I want it to become something that everybody is looking at for themselves. How often are you outsourcing your experience to another person? How often are you thinking more about what somebody else is thinking and what they're doing and what they feel about you than how you feel and what you want and what your own thoughts? How much are you reorienting yourself to somebody else's reality? Okay. So I'm super passionate about normalizing codependency, and I'm just super grateful that every day I get to work with people to realign with themselves and realign with true intimacy and have healthy relationships. And my work is informed by my own codependency recovery journey, which I started when I was 14.
Wow. I'm super excited. So let's dive in.
Yeah, I'm psyched too.
So we are watching a Friends clip and seeing if it's a healthy response or is it codependency?
I'm hurt. I'm actually hurt that you would think I would send you any of those things out of anything other than love. Hurt. Hurt.
All right, Ross, I get it.
I mean, my God, can't a guy send a barbershop quartet to his girlfriend's office anymore?
Please, Ross, it was so obvious. It was like you were marking your territory. I mean, you might as well have just come in and peed all around my desk.
I would never do that.
Look, I know what's going on here, okay? Mark explained it all to me. He said this is what you guys do.
Yeah, well, if Mark said that, then Mark's an idiot.
Mark's a genius.
But why? How is he a genius?
Look, don't you see what's happening here? Instead of hitting on her right away, he's becoming her confidant. Now he's going to be the guy that she goes to complain about you.
What am I going to do?
Well, why don't you send her a musical bug? Oh, no, you already did that.
Okay, so what do we think? It's giving jealousy, the clip.
I have about 15 things to say about it.
Okay.
Please.
Give me 1 through 5.
Well, the first sovereign thing he said, to me, sovereignty or independence of being or taking responsibility for your own feelings is the antithesis of codependency. So the first thing he said was, I'm hurt, which is beautiful, right? So he's speaking to his own emotional state and his own feelings. And then the rest of it seemed like talking about what other people are doing. I'm hurt because you did this. I'm hurt because you said that. And then there's a whole lot of what I call in my work future tripping. Well, if you say this, then he's going to do that, and he's going to do this, and she's going to do that, and he's going to do this, and then he's going to think that, right?
Yeah.
So in codependency is not a present moment phenomenon. It's past tripping, or it's future tripping. You said this and you said this and this is how it went, or this is how it's going to go, right? So oftentimes codependency is a repressive state, meaning we're really good. A lot of codependents are very, very good analyzers. We think many steps ahead, right? Well, if I say this, then they're going to do this and they're going to do this. I know they're going to think this about me. So then now I'm not going to say anything. Because I've mapped it all out in my mind of how I think it's going to go. Yeah. And that's exactly what we saw on the couch there. Well, he's going to say this and she's going to do that and this is what's going to happen. And then in 4 years from now, right?
Yeah, you're
and
screwed.
so, yeah, so we map the whole thing out. And most importantly, we believe it. And so from the point of view of my work, we do a lot of dissolving belief in the thoughts because your mind is going to go forward and it's going to go backward. But most importantly, you know, we could be codependent to other people, but we also could be codependent unto ourselves. In other words, being dominated by other people, we also can be dominated by our own mind and how we think it's going to go. And we are so in other people's minds. Like I'm projecting what this person's thinking. And then I'm reacting to that projection that I put in their mind to what they think about me, right?
Yeah.
And it often happens in dating situations. I mean, it's most common in dating situations, but it could be at work with your boss or with a family member where we're just completely dominated by what we think is happening with other people or what we think they've done to us.
Running narratives in your own head.
Yeah, running narratives.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kyla, have you run any narratives in your head recently?
Of course.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm the queen of distorted thinking. Yeah.
It's a good crown.
It's
a heavy crown.
It can be anything from work. I think it shows up more now in like my work environment where I'll be like really flustered about something because I think that if I don't do a good job, right? If like I don't perform in a certain way, that I'm going to get, and this is probably from past experiences. So from my past experiences at other employers, bosses being harder, just being in a difficult situation, I'm expecting that same reaction or that same type of environment, toxicity, you're not doing well enough, even though I'm performing and going above and beyond. I also think that it comes out in dating, yeah, absolutely, with my partner, and just distorted thinking of, well, I'm doing this because you're doing that. I really think I have a really hard time, not so much with like in the past, but that fortune telling, like future tripping of like, this is how it's going to go. I love to have an exit plan and to map it out to like figure out what I'm going to do because it makes me feel safe. And I feel safe having a plan. And I'm sure that's all from past experiences. I wouldn't have started thinking that way unless I've had to go through that. Yeah.
Sure. Can I ask you a question? What's the feeling? So you're at work and you're thinking, if I don't do this, you know, maybe they're going to punish me or I'm going to get fired or that's going to happen or this is going to happen. What's the feeling? What do you find? How do you find yourself being or feeling when you're thinking those things?
I think the first emotion is anxiety. And then I think the secondary emotion to the anxiety is anger or fear. I think it's more because it shows out in anger. Like I think even you can attest to this. I get like really defensive.
Yeah.
I get like all
big defense
pent up,
energy.
like trying to defend myself. And it's like, whoa, you know, like we're not even there yet, but it's fear. I'm just acting out of fear because I'm afraid this is going to happen or something's going to happen in a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah. In those situations, I'm like, hey, take a deep breath. Like we're on the same team. Me, you versus problem, not me versus you. So like,
thank God.
Let's hard reset that kind of thought process.
I think I've done a lot.
You've gotten much, yeah, for sure. And I think it's building awareness and being like, I want to react like that. And like, let's take 3 steps back. Don't need to react like that. Safe space.
Yeah.
Safe environment.
Because of him and Danny both, and again, this is super grateful to be in a work environment that allows this. I wish every place was like that. But because of that, I've been literally able to like, oh my God, is this the red buzzer moment? Or do I need to like take a step back and be like, what's actually happening? Can I figure it out myself instead of getting worked up? Just being like, hey, you know, this X, Y, and Z instead of active, like reactivity with emotions and just being straight facts and being like, hey, this is the problem instead of like, this is you know what I mean? Like my problem now. So.
Well, it's beautiful. It sounds like in your working environment, there's also a healing energy happening
Absolutely.
too.
We try to
Yeah.
cultivate that.
Trying to break
I would say.
cycles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great, trying to break cycles. Yeah,
Our goal.
Is it okay if I ask you some questions?
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course. I think
please.
it's way better when you have that type of dynamic versus it just makes the conversation, I think, flow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love
Is
that.
it okay if I ask you some questions about your upbringing?
Yeah, absolutely.
What was who was in the house? Like mom, dad?
Mom. And then my dad I saw him like every other weekend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then what was your relationship like with him? Do you remember?
He is not very emotional. He's just very. I mean, I really lean on him for support, but he's just not very emotional or like. I don't want to say that he's not warm, but it became a dynamic of like, if I was in a situation, Dad, can you pay for this? You know, instead of being like, Dad, I'm feeling this way, I kind of just kept those feelings locked in. But there's a reason why when I was younger, my mom told me he wasn't my biological father. And so that totally changed my whole like perspective of him. Like I'm named after him. And I was like, what is happening? I think it was 6. So that really confused me. And I always felt like an outcast when I'd go to family events. So then I started to kind of pull back at a young age from him and like building any kind of relationship. And I still talked to him almost every week, but it still felt like this cold wall, like I was different from him. Yeah.
Wow. How does it feel to share that?
I always think it's like embarrassing. I always think it's embarrassing because my mom, like, why would I'm frustrated with my mom that she would tell me that, you know, at such young, because she was mad at him. That's why she did
how
that.
old?
I was 6 when she told me that, and she was just mad and at him. I don't even know why. And my biological father was like in prison for like coke dealing, like cocaine, and like but he didn't want to be my father. My mom got pregnant in high school, like kind of the end of her senior year, and he just didn't want to be my dad.
Oh, so she was young when she had you.
Yeah, she was young. She turned 20 the day before I was born. And then my dad, who I call my dad, who I'm named after, he stepped up. He was dating my mom at the time. He was like, I'll raise her. So he was the one who kind of like stepped in and just he's been in my life ever since. He's never treated me in any way, like he's kept me but I felt this way. It was my feelings about it. Yeah.
Wow. And then what was your relationship with your mom like?
My mom was young. She made a lot of mistakes. She went through a lot of mental health issues. No addiction, just a lot of strange men in and out of the house, abusive relationships. And then she finally got remarried. I think it was about 10, and then she started having my brother and sister, and he was also an addict. He was a crack addict. So there was a lot of like abuse in the house, physical. There was a lot of drug abuse and just
Towards
violence.
you and your siblings too, or just to your mom?
To my mom and to me, because I was obviously not his daughter. But like there would be times where he'd like throw all my stuff out and my mom's stuff out I remember coming home like in high school, I think I was 14, and all my stuff was thrown out in the snow and my mom's stuff. And he was like, I was like, what is happening? And then that's where my relationship with my mom kind of cut off about that age, because I moved in with my grandparents.
Oh, at what age?
14.
Oh.
Yeah. Because I was like, I'm not going back. And my mom went back. I was like, if you go back, I'm not talking to you. And then she went back. So, which I don't blame her. You know, she didn't have a job. She hasn't worked in 20 years. So I totally don't blame her. But at the same time,
She was codependent, right? On him, essentially.
Yeah. I think they were codependent upon each other.
Explicitly.
Yeah.
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 It's a lot.
Yeah.
The next video?
Yeah, let's do the next video.
Yeah,
for sure.
We're going to run out of time.
Well, I have some things to say.
Okay, go.
Is that
Yeah,
okay?
go ahead.
Thanks for sharing all of that.
Of
That's
course.
really vulnerable stuff to say. And the reason why I asked is because what I heard you saying was sometimes you feel a defensiveness come up, right? Or this thinking of, I'm going to get fired or something's going to happen. And so from what you shared, all of that makes sense because you weren't in a safe environment,
Right.
right? You always had to protect yourself or think several steps ahead. And that happens oftentimes in codependence is we have catastrophic thinking and the thinking doesn't match what's currently happening. Like it might not match what's actually happening at your job, but that's early set programming because it was catastrophic in your household.
Right.
Right. And so your brain got used to predicting the sky was going to fall or we're not safe. Right? And so your nervous system is sort of set in this, like, we're not safe. And so, and also what I heard you say was like, it keeps me safe to have a plan.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So your nervous system is going, you need to keep yourself safe. You need to keep yourself safe. It's not noticing that you might actually be safe, but it's used to going, how are we going to keep ourselves safe here? How are we going to keep ourselves safe here? Right. Or your coworkers talk to you and but I heard you say it was like, I might automatically get defensive. And that makes sense because, we develop filters. We listen through the filters that our parents sort of put in our brain, right? And so when you were a kid, you probably had to listen through a defensive filter to keep yourself safe in some way. Right. And that you actually probably were being accused or the punishment didn't meet the crime, which often happens in these situations with these abusive situations, right? There's lots of fighting going on and the kids are going, I don't even know what happened to create this massive amount of anger or this massive amount of abuse. The punishment doesn't meet the crime. And so oftentimes in codependence, we are preempting a punishment, even though we know we didn't even do anything wrong.
Right.
But we're trying to be prepared.
Yeah.
And I feel like oftentimes that can actually manifest it too. Like if you have that sort of programming in your head and you're future tripping on some form of scenario, then you're already kind of
You're going to cast that will.
Your behavior is already accommodating that situation to come to fruition too. Like when Kyla gets defensive, for example, it's like it creates more like energy, and then we're like, whoa, is this bigger than we thought? Oh, what is actually going on? Right. And then we realize like this is a pattern in our own patterns as well. And we're able to kind of metabolize it.
And I think it's easy to take that energy and then one up, as in match the anger, match the kind of chaos versus now I think seeing that, receiving it and be like, hey, we're all right. We're deep breath, we're same team. No one's throwing luggage out onto the ice.
Right.
Okay. No snow. You're in a safe house.
Right.
And
that's totally, like I had for them to even like acknowledge that to me, I was like, oh my God, I'm doing that. I didn't even recognize it. I don't even think I did recognize it until Danny or Elijah were like, hey, like, everything's okay. Like, nothing's wrong. And I was like, nothing's wrong? Something's wrong.
Yeah.
I felt
there's like one time
wrong.
where you're like, well, I'm just going to quit. And I'm like, that doesn't seem sensible. And it seems like you're in an emotional state right now. So just like take a deep breath and like we could circle back, you know?
Yeah. And then it got to like a thin place and we're like, is Kyla actually going to quit? Like, do we need to let her go? And then we're like, no, we need to just like heal.
Give her love.
Yeah. And then like Kyla turns out to be like such a powerhouse for our company.
Bringing on Pearl.
So
we got
sweet.
a mascot,
Yeah.
She's like amazing.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say I have nothing but good things. I think that's every time I hit the pillow right now is like gratitude. I'm just like, whatever's going on, I'm like, I get to go to work and enjoy my job and like enjoy the people I work with. Like it makes me so emotional because I've not had that in my career ever. It's always been these like angry, narcissistic bosses above me that I'm like trying to please and like cater to. And to have this that are like working alongside me that are willing to like get in the trenches with me and like we'll figure it out, we'll work it together. It's like really incredible. Nothing but
Yeah,
positive
that's
things.
so beautiful.
Yeah.
I call that a healing contract.
Yeah.
And I think that in any relationship, especially romantic relationships, but it could be in the work environment, every relationship is a healing contract.
Yeah.
And so if you don't go into it going, this, where are the healing lessons in this relationship, then you'll be drowned in your own default, right? And so your default might be defensiveness, or your default might be pleasing, right? Or your default might be trying to prove your self-worth. And so oftentimes, with my clients, I work with high performing women and they're going, I'm doing great at work, but at home, it's like I'm 13, like in my relationship, I'm a mover and a, driver at work, but in my relationship, I have so much anxiety. Well, is that relationship a healing contract? Are you highlighting where you're defaulting with each other? Because that's what I just heard you guys say. They highlighted a filter through which you were speaking and listening, the defensiveness that you didn't see on your own. So then you became conscious of your codependence, which is why I call my work Conscious codependents. We become conscious of our filters. And then you have what you call like what I call a little codependent awakening. Oh, I just awakened to some blind filter that I had about myself because other people saw it and highlighted it for me.
Yes.
So, oftentimes my clients are like, why do I keep recreating the same patterns in relationships? Well, are you with somebody that's able to see your blind spots? And are you able to see their blind spots? That's a healing contract.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're not in a healing contract with somebody, then you're just going to keep operating from your blind spots, and you're just going to keep recreating the codependence. And
for sure. And I don't think it's enough to see the blind spots too. You have to have the capacity not to leverage them as well, because I feel like oftentimes, at least in my own relationships, like where things have gotten the most destructive and damaging is when we see each other's blind spots, and instead of being in a healing contract to support one another, we capitalize on that vulnerability for the sake of like feeling some form of entitlement or some form of validation, and it turns into a very like destructive cycle,
How do you mean?
Like, so your blind spots, you're saying like a pattern of defensiveness, for example, right? If your partner realizes that they can say something to you and trigger that neurological response in your nervous system, then they'll weaponize that at times, right?
As in, you have a mirror and you can say like, you see a blind spot, don't shine that light in my eyes. Like, you could have a reflection of a mirror and you see someone's area, right, of energy. Don't shine into my light or my eyes and blind me with like my own blind spot. Help me see a better pattern. Help me see a better way.
Yeah, but if somebody, I mean, if you're with somebody who's consciously, intentionally doing that, then I would look to your own codependent behavior as to why you are with somebody who's consciously doing that.
Yeah.
If somebody's consciously, intentionally doing that, that goes a little bit more towards just evil.
Yeah.
Because I don't, for the most part, I don't think people, for the most part, because I think most people are good intentioned. We have a small percentage of humans that probably aren't, but
Correct.
For the most part, I think if somebody's doing that, it's not intentional. They probably have their own blind spot that they're operating from.
Sure.
They're operating from their own unconscious behavior by doing that. But this is why, like, in my work, I don't love all of this talk about narcissism. There's so much talk about narcissism. And what that does for us codependents is it outsources our experience. It's all the narcissist's fault. It's all their fault. It's all they're doing this to me. They're doing this to me. Well, nobody's doing anything to you. It's up to each and every one of us to notice our own emotional state instead of going, it's the narcissist's fault. It's the narcissist's fault. And this is how you pivot around a narcissist. Okay, well, that's just more codependent behavior to start reforming and pivoting around somebody else's personality instead of going, oh, I notice this doesn't feel good to me. Or I notice I feel misunderstood, or I notice I feel misinterpreted. To sit in your own experience as much as possible is the access to love and intimacy in any relationship, most importantly, the relationship with yourself.
Yeah. You guys like communicate what you need and what you don't have.
Set boundaries, right? Which is, I'd imagine, a critical component to not falling into codependency.
Yeah, the concept of boundaries is about noticing your own internal experience. It's not about my boundary is you don't do this. It's not about anybody else. It's about I am not willing to negotiate my own experience. So I don't feel comfortable with this, or I don't like this, or this is how much I am willing to negotiate with my own experience. It has nothing to do with telling somebody not to do something and they keep doing it. Because in codependence, if you don't have the ability to stop doing that, and I say, stop doing that, and they keep doing it, well, that's on me because I'm not understanding the person I'm talking to. If I try to make you stop a habit, you don't have the ability to stop, and I go, you keep doing that. Well, that's up to me to understand what I'm available for as opposed to trying to make you stop something.
What's the resolution to that?
How do you mean?
Like, you're saying that if you're setting a boundary and someone keeps on encroaching on that boundary, and you're saying that it's your codependent behavior, if you're just like staying there, is the resolution to create space and to disengage from that situation? Or do you have to reapproach the way that you're telling them to stop doing something? What do you think is the solution?
I don't think it has any, in my opinion, It never has anything to do with having somebody else stop a behavior. It has everything to do with how much I'm going to expose myself to it, how much I'm available for it.
That's so fascinating.
The space.
It seems like your thought process is it has little to do with the other person. It has everything to do with me.
It has zero to do with the other person.
And
right?
how do I show up? What do I need to do for myself? And I think that you bring up the point of the narcissist. We're in a society now where it's like culturally being like, well, he's a narcissist, so screw that person, you know? And it's like, well, how did you show up to maybe create that behavior? What are you doing
to engage in that?
Yeah,
behavior.
look in the mirror and say, yeah, I only have 100% ownership of myself, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's a reason why. So narcissist it's a big word, okay? Narcissistic personality disorder is a diagnosable personality disorder. We're throwing the word around as if it's not like a really serious word.
Yeah.
And the way that I look at it can be an adjective for some types of behavior, right? Like number one, somebody's not understanding their impact on you. Okay. That's a common narcissistic behavior. Okay. Like I yell at you and you go, oh my gosh, that hurts. And I go, why should that hurt? No, I didn't do anything. Right. So we don't understand that. We're not understanding impact. Okay. And that's a huge narcissistic behavior. Another thing is narcissistic behavior could be, my reality is the only reality in the room. Your opinion doesn't matter. Your opinion doesn't matter, right? And so the reason why we would call somebody, oh, you're a narcissist, is because we're feeling something. I'm feeling dominated, or I'm feeling misunderstood, or I'm feeling invisible. So most importantly, we want to focus on our own internal experience and not how somebody else is behaving. Because if I'm just pointing to your behavior, I'm overlooking myself, which is what I'm blaming the narcissist for, is for overlooking me.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so if I don't overlook myself and go, I feel, I feel confused, I feel misunderstood, to actually notice our own behavior and bring ourselves online. And the other thing is, and this is not a unique thought of mine, but codependence and narcissists are the same thing. And we don't like to say that because narcissists are like codependence kryptonite. And a lot of us were raised by narcissists, which caused our codependency. But they're one and the same thing. Because a codependent will go, you're not making me feel safe. You're not seeing me. I need to protect myself against you. What am I doing? Projecting my reality onto that person. Making that person responsible for my reality, telling them how they're being. That's a very common narcissistic trait, is to project your reality onto somebody and be right about your reality. A lot of codependence, I always say codependence is righteous. It can be very righteous about another person and how they're being and what they're thinking and what we need to do to protect ourselves against them. So, and a codependent also is saying my reality, and this is, I think, like a basic definition of codependence. My reality depends on you. My safety depends on you. My happiness depends on you. My emotional state depends on you. My nervous system regulation depends on you. So if you're mad at me, I don't feel good. I can't be happy. I can't feel safe in the moment, right? And so that, I think, can be synonymous with narcissism, okay? My world is so important, it depends on you. And if you don't find it important, then I don't feel good. So anyway, there's an enmeshment amongst two people that narcissism and codependence really overlap.
Wow. I feel like it's like a spectrum. Like codependence can be, but they still walk the same line, right?
It's
like
a similar line. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it's like a tug of war. It's like a tango almost, like
they're like on opposite ends of the
storm.
spectrum, but the spectrum's a circle.
It's a complete,
and they meet at the end.
You meet each other, you pass each other and continue. That's so interesting.
If you go, you see oftentimes, because I work with a lot of couples, and they go, you're doing this. No, you're doing this. No, and everybody's pointing away from themselves.
Yeah, 3 fingers back at themselves.
Yeah, great. Yeah, totally.
So then how would you define codependency?
I define codependency as any time your reality depends on another person. Okay. So my happiness depends on you, or my safety depends on you, or my sense of identity or self-worth depends on you. And there's a difference between like, I think there's a level of dependence and codependence that can be really beautiful in a relationship where we depend on each other and we want to be seen and we want to be heard and we want that depth of intimacy. But when I'm depending on you to the point where I am dissociated with myself, I'm disconnected with myself, and I don't have a sense of self until you see me, until you see what you're doing to me. Or when you're regulated, so a lot of people pleasing comes in because I want to please you so you're happy, so then I can feel safe and connected, or I can feel good, or I can feel valued, because if you're upset, then I don't feel valued, you know? It happens a lot like in work when people have this like catastrophic thinking of pending being fired. No, I'm going to be fired. I'm not going to be fired, right?
That's always my number one. I'm going to be fired. That's it. I'm going to be fired.
And that is a lot of the dominance of codependency. Okay. We lean into a lot of other people are dominating us. They have my self-worth in their hands. They have my value in their hands. They have my safety in their hands. And then we reorient ourselves to serve their reality. And because like a lot of my clients, and myself included, earlier on in my codependency recovery, I'd be like, I am not myself in this relationship.
Yeah.
I can't even like identify myself in this relationship because I keep trying to serve their reality, which ultimately my authentic self is not present here. And that's my hugest mission, purpose, passion in life, is to bring people back into authentic alignment with themselves, no matter who they're around.
Yeah.
It's your partner, it's your boss, it's your parent.
It happens slowly too. You don't even realize that you could slowly almost mesh or mold into someone or something that you're not to fit someone else's needs, or like want that validation. Everyone's looking for validation, and you want it from your partner. So if you act a certain way and do certain things that aren't necessarily aligned with you, but they're aligned with their view of you, it feels good. So it's very easy to take gigantic steps and strides over a period of time away from your most authentic self.
It's a great statement. It feels good, right? Oftentimes in codependence, we get these oxygen hits.
It's like a rip of the vape, some dopamine.
Yes. Woo! Yeah, I feel validated. Now you see me. Now I feel seen. Now I feel understood. Even though the person you understand is actually not me. It's me adjacent, because I had to be that person to please you. But I'm fine as long as you're happy. And
I'll be a chameleon if you give me that validation. I'll go pink.
Yeah, and it's not conscious. It's
Never
not
is.
conscious. I mean, I started my codependency recovery 34 years ago.
Wow.
And I don't think it took me 15 years to become even conscious of what I was doing. I mean, I learned boundaries because my mom was like in and out of mental hospitals, like would black out into rage for like days. And so, And so when I went into Codependence Anonymous when I was a teenager, I was like, I just learned like, oh, you mean I don't have to stand there when she yells at me? Like I can leave the room. I hadn't conceived of that before.
Yeah. I think when I first walked into a meeting, they had a codependency meeting. They had all these pieces of paper around in a circle, and they had statements on them. And like one was like, it stuck with me. No is a complete sentence. And it had never dawned on me
That's a good
that
one.
no is a complete sentence, because I was
Powerful
so,
statement.
no, because no, this, and this. And it never would have dawned on me. And I'm glad now, it's been 10 years since I first walked into that meeting. I'm now receptive and open, because it took me a long time going through my own stuff to even get to that point to like process and go through the journey of like allowing myself to be like, oh, this is wrong, or like this is distorted thinking. I can't even identify an emotion right now. Like there's something going on. So it takes time. I definitely, like, that piece of paper was like, oh, I'm not codependent anymore. You know?
You're like,
It does
achieved.
It does take time, and I always tell people, if you want a free resource, I think Codependence Anonymous is an excellent program.
Yeah.
And it does take time, because conceptually, like, it's some of the concepts are probably easy to get, but to get them in your body is a whole process, because
sure.
codependency is actually a dissociation of the body. Okay. We are not in our body feeling our experience and noticing our experience, because especially for a lot of us really high level analyzers, we're analyzing every move. We may notice the feeling, but then we analyze the feeling. And then what we do is, I'll notice my feeling, but more importantly, let me notice your feeling and handle your feeling. Right. So we are so either in our head or outside of ourselves. And so my work is about bringing us into a deeply embodied state. And so what you're feeling is clear to you, and it becomes non-negotiable regardless of what somebody else is feeling. Because oftentimes we may say no or put up a boundary, and then the other person doesn't like it. And then we go, okay, forget it. Forget that boundary. Because we can't handle somebody feeling dysregulated inside of our no. But most importantly, the way I look at it is, not only can I not handle your being not happy with me because I said no, I can't handle how I feel in the face of you not being happy with me. So it really all goes to our own feeling. Because as we move through my process, the conscious codependence process, if I can expand my nervous system to feel and accept any feeling, then I can feel whatever pain I feel when you're not happy with me. That means I can be with you not being happy with me, because I can sit in what that might feel like.
Okay, so what is the conscious codependence process?
Okay.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So the conscious codependence process is a very meticulous process that I have developed over my 17 years of coaching codependency.
34 years of experience.
34 years. Yeah.
You're a codependent expert.
Yeah. I mean, I had no idea that when I started my codependence recovery when I was 14 that I would do it for a living.
Yeah.
But because I started so young, I was seeing everything through the lens of codependency. It was just like the lens that was implanted in my brain when I started.
Rose-colored lenses? No, codependent.
Codependent colored lenses. Yeah. So so the process is 52 distinctions. It's a very specific, meticulously designed process
Like the
that I
alphabet.
bring people to. What's that?
I said like the alphabet.
52?
I don't
No,
know.
52 weeks in the
Year?
Yeah.
Does the alphabet have 52 letters?
No, 26.
Oh,
Only
maybe I'm thinking of a
26
different
letters?
alphabet.
Half of 52 though. Exactly.
Now I'm feeling angry because I was incorrect. I'm just
Yeah. I'm codependent on your reaction of my 52. 50, you're saying you're 52. 52.
I would have guessed more letters of the alphabet.
I did.
but-
That's what I
26?
assumed.
26.
Yeah.
Which is exactly half of 52.
Maybe I'm
Just
thinking
kinda
52
eerie.
weeks in a year.
Anyways, so yeah, what's 52? 52 what?
So
My ADHD
I
brain.
bring couples, individuals, and groups through the conscious codependence process. And I bring us through what I call your codependent awakening. Because a lot of people, they come to me and they're like sort of just realizing, oh my gosh, I've been codependent. I've been some other form of myself at my job or in my relationship, or I'm experiencing so much dominance, like my partner is dominating me, or my parents are dominating me, or my boss is dominating me, and I just don't have a voice.
Or my mind's dominating me, right?
Or
That was
my
a big
mind-
one.
well,
I'm dominating myself almost.
I oftentimes, yes, but it will show up as anxiety. But one of the things that I highlight in my work is that you are believing your thoughts. Okay? Every thought that you have about this person, I have to make this person happy, or this person doesn't like me, or, you know, this person looked at me a certain way, so that means that was a huge thing for me, because I identify as a highly sensitive person, and a lot of codependent people do, because when we were kids, we were trained to notice the exact facial expression of our parent before they got mad at us, right? Or that feeling of energy when they enter the room, like sensitive to everything about another person. And so, you know, I used to think, oh, they gave me a look. That look means that they don't like me, and just so highly sensitive to everything.
I'm extremely empathetic usually as well, as far as you could really feel other people's emotions.
Yes. And there's a difference between empathetic empathy and codependent empathy. So empathetic empathy is, you know, I feel, sometimes you can feel someone's emotional state. Oh, if you're sad, then I'm sad, right? Like embody your experience, or I just feel compassion because I feel that you're upset, or I feel that you're going through something. I have empathy for it. Codependent empathy is I feel and sense all those things, and I have a job to do, which means I have to make you feel better, right? Or I have to pay that bill for you, right? Or whatever
Tend to
it
your
is.
emotions.
Tend to your emotions, right? I have to leave myself to handle your reality. And so codependent empathy is like, a lot of codependents are like, but I'm so empathetic and I feel everything. Well, you can feel everything and not have to do anything about it.
It's almost like if you see someone's rain cloud, you get under that rain cloud and then you put up the umbrella and just put it over their head, which is difficult.
Instead of just both
And then you're
standing
standing there in the rain.
Yeah.
Soaking wet.
Exactly.
Being like, how do you feel?
Instead of just
better.
both standing under the umbrella, right?
And that's the dissociative quality of codependence, right? I am going to help you and dissociate from the pain and suffering that I'm in by taking my time to handle your problem.
I feel like the state of disassociation is almost like, it's so numbing and almost like blissful. I feel maybe I've just have built it up that way, because if I'm obviously getting that that oxytocin, or like I'm helping somebody, right? I've got the umbrella and I'm like, oh, they feel great. And even though I'm like wet and like cold and freezing, I don't feel it because I'm disassociating from myself. So like I'm in a state of numbness. And so I don't feel any negative emotion at all because I'm disassociating. And that's been like a safety blanket in my experience. I feel like that's a safety blanket for me. And it becomes almost addicting to go into that state. It's not like I'm disassociating, I'm not here, but that state of disassociating from my emotions, not being able to identify emotions, it's definitely something I feel like is almost like I'm going to go into my disassociation, I'm going to scroll on TikTok, like that's safety to me. And that's a little scary, of course, I acknowledge that, but
At least it's not heroin.
at least it's not, I'm in recovery from heroin, but that was, my safety. It still is, just not like to my resort, like automatically that's where I go. I try really hard to not do that anymore, but it's still like my number one, like, and drive, like that's where I go. Yeah.
That is such a great way to put it.
Yeah.
You've been sharing so vulnerably. I just
Oh,
so
thanks.
appreciate that.
Of course.
And I think that that's where the fine line between codependency and intimacy comes in. Okay. People can conflate codependency with intimacy. Well, I feel good if this person is now calm and taken care of. Right. So since I feel good, now I can connect to this person,
right.
or now they can connect to me. But intimacy is not a product of being disconnected from self. If you're disconnected from self, if you're not intimate and connected with your own experience, you're not authentically connecting with another person.
Right.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I was gonna ask like how you discern from like being in that state of codependence and then also like being selfless, right? Because if you're putting the umbrella over somebody's head, like, and some people might see that as being like a selfless, like very genuine, kind person, opposed to like trying to protect yourself too, right? And what's that boundary between being selfish and selfless?
Well, that's for the individual to determine, right? If I'm truly connected to myself and I go, listen, I'm okay with like I'm truly okay with the rain coming down on me right now and you being dry. Like I am truly, actually, honestly okay with that. Or am I lying to myself? And going, the rain's coming down on me. It's okay. I'm freezing, but I'm suffering, but I'll ignore my suffering for you.
Yeah.
And so, that's really, really up to the individual.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, like when they do consultations with me, it's like, you have to be able to determine for yourself, is my codependency going into the red zone where I'm ignoring my own suffering?
And different people have different thresholds too, because I feel like some people could be out there with the umbrella and be like, my whole life I have attuned to everyone around me, my parents, and this feels safe, this feels right, so this is who I am, versus no, put the umbrella under both of you and see how you feel, and sit there and really kind of work through some of these things. And I think sometimes you don't even know you have such a high tolerance.
Ignoring suffering can be an identity.
Yeah.
And
without you being aware, you can kind of just fall into this type of behavior.
Yes. Even personally for myself, I was in destructive relationship after destructive relationship. I didn't even realize the high level of tolerance I had for insane behavior.
Yeah.
The high level of tolerance I had for like, I'm cool, I'm good, I'm good, don't worry.
We've seen way worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I actually have a very similar upbringing to you in that my mother was hospitalized like multiple times throughout my adolescence with like mania and like schizoaffective disorder, constantly just bouncing off the walls. And then as I transitioned into my adulthood, I found my tolerance for that sort of unstable behavior was much higher, obviously. And looking back at it, I'm like, well, how did I not like leave that sooner, or like, you know, set that boundary or create space? And I think that's spot on, you know, is that it was just the tolerance.
You didn't have the boundary.
Yeah. But I'm curious, like when you were 14 and you started this journey, do you feel like there was like any sort of learnings throughout your codependence journey that were really profound and like instrumental in that transition and that awareness ultimately?
Yeah, I had to keep developing the relationship to my emotions and my feelings. Because another thing that I talk a lot about in my work is a lot of us were not raised to have the accurate reaction to the stimulus.
Right.
Okay. So if I had an accurate emotional reaction to my mom losing her mind, I would have jumped out the window and like went crying down the street asking for somebody to call the cops.
Right.
But my mom would freak out and I would hold it in and I would keep it calm and I would just try to like calm her down. That's not an accurate emotional response to the stimulus. And so now, you know, I get older and I'm having boyfriends screaming at me and I'm not having an accurate emotional response, which might be like, this really, really hurts and I got to get out of here, or I don't feel safe, or whatever it is. You know, I'm clamping it down and I'm turning into what I call your traumatic identity, which is the identity that developed in response to your parents' or guardian's reality. My traumatic identity was I became the cool chick. I'm cool. That's all right. You could yell at me. You could take advantage of me sexually, like whatever. I mean, I would speak up here and there, but the speaking up was not effective, and I stayed anyway, you know. And that was the same with my mom. I spoke up here and there. It wasn't effective. It would just get her even more mad.
Right.
And so the person you become in reaction to your parents' reality is not you. It's your traumatic identity. Your codependency is not you. Okay. It's your traumatic identity. It's what I call your default. And so the more you can identify the thoughts, emotions, interpretations, reactions of your traumatic identity and go, oh, that's not me. That's my trauma. Now let's reveal your authentic true self. And so it took me years to start to learn how to feel. And not just learn how to feel, but understand those feelings, respect my own feelings, and also know the difference between what a real threat and what a perceived threat is. Because I would have true threats from boyfriends and go, I'm fine, I'm safe. My nervous system wasn't like, you are not safe. And then there's other situations where I don't feel safe and there's actually no real threat.
Right.
Because your nervous system starts to get really confused because especially when you have tons of threat when you were a kid and you just learn to live with it. We learn to live in unsafe environments.
It's also a form of love. Like it's mixed in with appreciation,
great
validation, love. So you being in those relationships for as long as you were, you're like, this is what love looks like, you know, scream at me more, like throw some shit at me, you know, you're not loving me hard enough until you start to learn those patterns.
Yes, because it's such a great point, because you're in your traumatic identity, which is a regressive state. I was in a regressive state.
For sure.
Okay. And oftentimes people say like, oh, well, you married your father or you married your mother. The way that I look at it is you didn't marry your father's daughter got married. You were in this relationship as your father's daughter. Yeah. Because I take every opportunity I can to turn the camera at how we are being.
That's such a good way to do it.
Yeah.
That's such a good way, because
it's powerful.
You're the only one that could really change your situation. It's you at the end of the day. And if you could train yourself to be like, everything in my life has happened because of me, good, bad, or ugly. Now, what do I need to do to change it? That gives you the power and agency, and it might not be 100% realistic fully, right? If someone else is kind of throwing stimuli at you and you're in an unhealthy relationship, but it's easier to take agency over your own journey and take action from there rather than being on the other end and being like, well, that narcissist, or screw my mom, or it's this person. And there could very much be truth in that, but what is going to mobilize you to actually change and make that progress?
Yeah, that's a really beautiful way to say it.
Another thing that stuck with me
go ahead.
is just on that point when I only had been to a few Codependency Anonymous meetings.
I got to get down one of these meetings.
Because I was just like, this is for me. I had a drug problem, you know. I was like, that's my problem. Get rid of the drugs. The problems all come out afterwards. But somebody was like, you're only in control of your ABCs. And I was like, what? Your actions, behaviors, and conversations. And I was like, that is so powerful. Like, I can't control what someone says to me. I can't control the weather. It's only like how I react, what I say, you know, what my conversations are, and what's behind all of that, and how everything like that. And that was just so powerful for me to like hold that, because it all really does come down to, am I putting myself in this situation? Am I going to allow myself to go through this? Am I going to react this certain way when I could realistically, if I'm in a situation like that, I could leave, but I choose to stay. And it's kind of like a fun, I think that's the sickness to it, is I like it, you know? It's like sick because I like it, you know?
You get a high off of it. It
Yeah.
like secretes hormones. And I think there's another A too, which is like attitude, right? Above even the actions. It's like, because that's going to determine ultimately how you behave and how you act and how you converse as well.
Right.
There's a very powerful gravitational pull with codependency. Very, very, very powerful gravitational
In what
pull.
way?
You are pulled out of yourself and you're magnetized onto that person. Whoever it is, you are so magnetized onto what they think and their personality. It is, you know, they say a lot in the healing world, giving your power away, right? Oftentimes with us codependents, we didn't have the power to give away to begin with. We're raised to live in the dominance of somebody else's world. And so it's magnetized. We were so drawn outside of ourselves to focus on somebody else's reality. And that's why I created such a meticulous process to get us back into our bodies, to get us fully aligned with ourselves. And just on the heels of what you said so awesomely, it's like getting to know ourselves so well. Get to know how you interpret things. How are you interpreting people? How are you interpreting what people say and their actions? How are you interpreting your own value?
You're explaining introspection very well.
Introspection. Yep.
Okay.
But that's a good way.
How do you start to think about those things? Because in the space that we do ketamine therapy. We work with some clinics that do other therapies that will make you kind of aware of some of these behaviors. Like it creates space, right? And with having a really successful experience, you have to prepare really well and you have to integrate really well. We see the people that do really well with these treatments are naturally introspective. So if you're in a codependent relationship, you know that you're feeling not like yourself. How do you start asking those questions to yourself if you don't know?
If you don't say that like
question? How do you start asking the questions? Like you're asking all these introspective questions, like how am I showing up? What does that look like? Well, what do you, if someone doesn't know those skills, right, or doesn't possess those skills, where do they go to learn those skills or acquire said skills?
So in my work, the Conscious Codependence process, I bring people, like I said, to what I call your codependent awakening. And what we determine very early in the process is what is your particular default. And so your default might be defensiveness. Your default, like for example, my default was everybody hates me. And I didn't know that. I knew it after I awakened to it and became conscious to it. But I filtered everything. This person hates me or I hate them. Or they just gave me a look, they probably hate me. And everything I said and did, and even the way I postured myself and moved my body was around avoiding or creating hate. Because that's how my mom was. Everybody hated her in her mind, or she hated them. Hate was like the biggest, most common word, it seems, spoken in my house. And so we all have a default, okay? Whether it's feeling invisible, whether it's feeling defensive, whether it's constantly needing to protect, whether it's feeling low self-worth, whether it's feeling invisible, whatever it is, we all have our unique place that we default to, through which we interpret interaction through. And so in my work, we get really, really, really granular. We get very clear on what is your particular default. And then you go, oh, now I notice the framework through which I'm relating through. Once you know your own unique framework, you then can identify when you're coming from that place. And then you can be released from it into your actual, true, authentic self, which is way more free, which lives in permission, which can give and receive love and connection without having to protect or push or prove, without being in the want to be wanted, the need to be needed, or the need to prove oneself, which is the 3 codes to clear codependency. That's the sort of foundational theory of my work. So there's...
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, the 3 codes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the 3 codes to clear codependency. The want to be wanted, which is rooted in your sense of belonging. The need to be needed, which is rooted in your sense of safety. And the need to prove yourself, which is rooted in your sense of identity, like constantly proving your worth or proving your validity or proving to your partner, like, we're in a good relationship, don't worry about it, like. So, and I break down the common developmental roots and common behavioral patterns of each code so that my clients and anybody can have a really good reference point as to, like, is this a codependent habit or behavior or not? Am I in a codependent mode? Am I wanting to be wanted right now? Am I needing to be needed? Am I needing to prove myself right now?
It seems like you help people build awareness, like, for themselves, and ask those questions that you were just asking, right? Look in the mirror and be like, okay, how am I showing up? What does that look like? Am I happy in showing up this way? If I'm holding the umbrella and it's raining, am I okay with actually being poured on right now, right? And you could start to build almost that knowledge to be introspective with these different parts of your life and how you're showing up, which is amazing. You often
That's a great way to say it,
talked about the codependent awakening. Okay, can you give me a story of, like, your worst case of a codependency and then their awakening and what that looks like? I'm interested on what is after the peak, and once you see the light, like, where have you seen people go with this newfound info?
Oh my gosh, thanks for asking. It's just the beauty and honor of my work is to see people return to themselves and return to true freedom and true safety and intimacy. And I just am really grateful for what I get to do for a living. I can think of so many people. There's so many clients. I mean, I have this one client, and you can see her testimonial on my website. When I met her, she was in a 17-year marriage, and they were of a particular religion. And in that religion, you don't get divorced. It's like, you could be excommunicated for getting divorced. But she could barely talk to her husband. Her husband had cheated on her. And when they did talk, they just would argue. They had no harmony. Okay. And so I worked with her through that religious trauma framework, dissolving that religious trauma framework. Because oftentimes in any kind of trauma, really, the beliefs of the trauma become your beliefs. Okay. So the beliefs of that religion become your beliefs, or the beliefs of how your mom operated, how her psychology become your beliefs. The way I look at it is your outer punisher becomes now your inner punisher. Okay. Your mom's voice now becomes how you talk to yourself, right? Or that bits of the religion, some of it's awesome and some of it is limiting, and they become your beliefs, right? And so we really, really, really got really granular on how she was thinking and what she was believing, what beliefs were hers and what weren't hers, right?
That is, just to pause right there.
Yeah.
It's, you basically have to look at yourself, and you're looking through a certain lens for 17 years. Now you have to reshape your reality,
Right.
which is so incredibly difficult. Like, I can't imagine the bravery that woman had, just to be able to be, like, constantly facing question after question.
Yes, totally. And also, what word did you use? Courage, bravery, and the bravery to even talk about it. Because in a lot of these religious situations, they don't. Not only do you not get divorced, you don't talk about how bad your marriage is, right? And so I coached her through, and I don't want to encourage black or white thinking, because some people think if I get help, that means I'm going to have to get divorced, or if I have personal freedom, I have to leave this job. Not necessarily, right? But you could, have personal freedom and expand the situation you're in and not have to leave it. But in this particular situation, I coached her through leaving a 17-year marriage, and getting a home of her own. And now she found the love of her life, and she's married, and she's in like a super deep, intimate, close healing contract relationship, and they're of the same religion, and because that's what was important to her. So sometimes I get to watch people shed and recreate in amazing ways.
Yeah. You bring up a lot of, in just my experience, of cognitive behavioral therapy, like points.
Yeah, it's a big piece of what I do.
Just the black and white thinking, and just even the sort of future tripping. Like I've heard a lot of that in therapy, like with cognitive behavioral therapy. Do you utilize DBT as well with like emotional and regulation and identifying emotions in the work as well?
Yeah. My work is a collage of cognitive behavioral, somatic, intersubjective meditation, like all this stuff that I've been trained in, plus this my overarching intuition. I have I work very intuitively as well. So I'm informed by stuff I've been trained in, and I'm informed by my own healing journey, which I think is the biggest education I've gotten.
And 14 years too. You're almost like a healing consultant, because even the way that you were asking Kyla, you were like, it was almost like you were looking for pressure points, as in, well, how did that influence this, or what did that look like? Like it felt like while you were going and kind of asking these questions, it was almost like systems oriented thinking. Like, why isn't this light working, and is this affecting this? And you kind of like go through the house and kind of look at it, and you're like, okay, well, this is what I see is coming up. And then it's just, you did it literally in like 5 minutes. Like it was really crazy. You asked like 3 to 5 questions. So years of experience has culminated to an amazing program and a wealth of knowledge.
Thank you. Thank you. I definitely have found that over the years, that you said it in such a cool way, like pressure point questions. There's a certain strategy of an investigation that will create the picture. And I've distilled it in a very short period of time. I can pinpoint someone's default, but you told me what this defensiveness was, so you said it first, but we can find the root of that very easily.
But there's something to be said of, I'm defensive versus the way that I'm showing up is defensive, and that uncovers all of these other things. Like she had surface level awareness versus you're like, oh hey, you got 6 more feet under there, and you're like, what? You know what I mean?
And it's almost even just bringing up like the 3 like codes of you bringing, like the framework is like your self is defensiveness, and that's in self-worth. Like I finding my worth, and I'm showing up defensive because I don't think you're valuing my worth in my work. You know what I mean? Like that's where my defensiveness comes up. Oh, I'm going to be fired, or this is going to happen. I'm feeling this way because I'm grappling with my own self-worth and thinking I'm worried about what you think about me and about how I show up at work. That's really where the root of all of it is. And just even the previous one you said, I need you to need me, I need you to want me. And that is like, I need my employer to need me, right? Like I need that. And not only do I need them to need me, I need them as well. Like it's a 2-way street. So just that 3 codes, like really like was like a
what were those 3 codes again?
The want to be wanted, the need to be needed, and the need to prove oneself. And what I want to highlight in what you're saying is what I heard you say was, well, I need my employer to need me, right? In codependency, we are trying to create and make sure that they need me. Instead of surrendering to, I don't have to make that happen. It just is. They do need me.
It will.
Right? And I need you. But we are trying to make sure that is super, present.
Right.
And so codependency is often an overcompensating. We're trying to create something that is just there because we don't have a relationship to surrender. Just surrender. We're safe, right? Surrender. We're okay. Surrender. You like me. I like you. Right? Just surrender. I don't have to make you like me. That was a huge thing for me. Oh my gosh. I didn't even realize one of my personal codependent awakenings when I realized like, oh, I want this person to like me instead of just surrendering to they like me. Right? Or I want to like them, so I'm testing them a little bit to make sure they're okay. instead of just they're okay. You know, there was so much overcompensating in my personality in the past, and that is just codependent stuff.
So if someone is struggling with codependency, where do they find you? What's like the first step? Because you've explained so much throughout this past hour. It's been amazing. I feel like I've said wow audibly and then internally multiple times.
Yeah.
So yeah, where can people find you if they want to start this journey?
Thank you. Yeah. CherylFidelman.com. You can book your free consultation there.
Can you spell that?
Yeah, CherylFidelman.
I could just imagine myself driving and being like,
CherylFidelman.com.
my dyslexia is like, is it an F or a D?
Thank you for asking me that.
Of course.
So on my website, if you put your email address in, you'll get your free mini ebook of the 3 codes to clear codependency. And there it is.
Yeah.
Kyla's holding it right now.
Holding it, yeah.
She's been highlighting throughout the episode.
Yeah. Taking notes.
Yeah, so that will, like I said, break down the common developmental roots and behavioral patterns of each code. And then you put your email address in, you get your ebook, and then from there you can schedule a free consultation with me if you want. And just by being on my email address, you'll get my emails. I have the free and monthly Conscious Codependence class once a month.
Wow.
So the
It's
Conscious
free?
Codependence community comes together once a month. Yeah, actually today at 3:00.
Oh my gosh, free 99.
What's that?
Free 99. We love free.
Free 99.
99, like free.99. Like it's free.
Oh, okay.
It's free.
It's free.
So we have the free and monthly class
That's
every
great that you have
month.
resources.
I have hundreds of videos on YouTube. I write a monthly article, so I just send out lots of free resources.
And then what does like a typical client engagement look like for you? Like weekly calls, bi-weeklies?
Yeah, like I sign up. What does that look like? How am I getting my help?
Okay. So the private program is 4 months.
Okay.
So if for individuals or couples, or sometimes an individual will show up and they may bring their partner in for a couple sessions. It's not like officially a couples thing, couples program. So I work with individuals, couples. The group program is 6 months.
Okay.
So my groups meet every Monday. You have a choice between the morning or afternoon Pacific time group. The group is 6 months and the private is 4 months.
Nice.
The private's a little bit more customized
For
because
sure.
it's just me and you in deep partnership.
Yeah.
You know, all the time is for
Working
you. And the group, you get 3 videos every 2 weeks stripped to you, and then we discuss. There's like homework assignments in the videos, and we discuss that in class. But I keep my groups very small, so there still is a lot of intimate time for coaching and feedback and sharing.
I think that it's probably really cool to go through with a group. I mean, we often do like IOPs and PHPs that are like your smaller groups. And like this is such a strong niche and such a small thing that I feel like you would get a lot of benefit from also seeing what other people are going through and how they're showing up and being like, whoa, or okay, I'm seeing Samantha go this way. Am I doing that? You know, and it could also uncover and kind of help that introspective process.
So true.
That's amazing that you're
Absolutely.
bringing people together and healing through community.
Yeah, the groups are amazing, and even if someone just wants to come to the free and monthly class, that's a group experience as well.
Nice.
Is there like an open enrollment for the group every 6 months? Or
No, it's a rolling enrollment.
Oh, cool.
You can come in anytime.
nice.
Yeah. So some people like are in their first module, some people are on their 5th module. So different people are at different phases, which is super cool. Because for one thing, if you're like in the middle of the conscious codependence process, you're in the middle module, you're relearning the stuff from the earlier modules. You're going, oh, I see where I came from, and I see where that person's thinking. And so anyway, you're just with people at different
cool.
phases of the process.
Yeah,
So
even
it's
month
really cool.
1, you come in and you see someone that get their enlightenment, and you're like, she could do it, I could do it too, or they could do it, I could do it too.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Super powerful.
Yeah, it's a really, really beautiful process.
That's
And
really cool.
It's like, I can't say enough. It's my mission and purpose in life to bring people back into alignment with themselves.
Yeah.
And stop looking outwards. Stop having your energy out there on other people. Stop putting people above you or their needs or wants any different than yours.
Right.
Nobody's needs and wants are any higher or lower than anybody's.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's really cool.
You really, you embody like that awareness, and I feel like the framework that you've instilled is like almost like an algorithm to like disassemble these like patterns of trauma, right? And lack of awareness.
And you're putting it on other people, which is really cool, you know? So you're like, open up the umbrella, put yourself under it. If there's a cloud, someone else, walk over, keep the umbrella under you, grab the other person too. And then I feel like with healing, it has rippling effects. That's why we do what we do as well. So it's amazing to find like-minded individuals that are on completely different paths, but are so passionate about what they do, why they do it, and more importantly, getting the message out to other people.
Yeah, there's so many amazing healers out there with their own point of view and their own way of looking at things and their own sort of mastery at how they heal from their particular angle.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So highly recommend checking out Cheryl. If you are looking for codependency support, hit her up. If you're looking for support with therapy or with potential medication support, help with outside of the box treatments such as TMS, Spravato, ketamine, we have other podcast episodes where you could dive in and learn more. Please feel free to reach out to us, cyclehealth.com, and all of us on this couch are trying to help push the ball forward and put that good energy out there. So thank you so much, Cheryl, for coming and hanging and chatting.
Thank you for having me. You guys are awesome.
Yeah,
I so
it's been-
appreciate
so
this
much.
time.
Thank you, Cheryl.
I've learned so much,
Yeah.
so
I have
I hope
too,
everyone
yeah.
has too.
Yeah, that was great.
Amazing.